check this out. Very satisfying little pen we're going to look at today, the Pilot Elabo, sent to me by JetPens.com. It's very nice, very slick. I'm a big fan of it so far. You might notice I've already filled it up with ink and everything just to get it going there. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. We are going to look at some of the details of it, talk about it a little bit, and then I'm going to draw a picture of it with, this time, I think, 2 different kinds of ink, which were also sent to me by JetPens. These 2 inks right here. They're very cute little ink bottles. Like, these are maybe some of the favorite ink bottles I've gotten in a long time. I don't know what it is about them. At first I thought they were supposed to be maybe modeled after like birds. You know, like maybe this is they're pudgy little birds and this is the bird tail right here. But really I think this is maybe supposed to be like the nucleus, and this is maybe an electron that swings around. If this is really, you know, this says photon, this one says gluon, whatever that means. So this is the ink I put in here already. I used a syringe, and the pen did come in what at first I thought looked a lot like a sunglasses case. But no, it was a pen, and very conveniently it came with both a little cartridge, if that's what you want, and it also came with a very cool looking converter, piston converter, which I think is also nice. Very accommodating. That's always nice for people who are maybe buying their first pen. I don't know if this would actually be a lot of people's first pen, as it's like $170 or something like that, which we'll get into maybe some of the reasons why it's so expensive in a minute. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I like that it came with the piston converter, so I filled it up with this photon ink, which is green as you've seen. Yeah, and then maybe after I draw a picture with the green ink, I'll come in with some of this ink right here and add some highlights, which as you can see, it says glistening, and you can see like there's like glitter in there or something. Pretty exciting. So maybe I can put some of that in there afterwards and do some highlights, some touch-ups. Who knows? I think the pen also comes in black. This is the red one. If we look closely at the nib, it says 14K and 585 on it, which both pretty much mean the same thing. That's talking about how pure the gold is, right? But you might be thinking, Peter, this doesn't look like gold. That's right. It's because the nib itself is gold, and then it's coated in something called rhodium, which from what I've gathered is pretty much just a way to make the nib match with the rest of the trim on the pen, right? Because aesthetics do matter a lot when it comes to fountain pens, and if it was a nice golden nib and looked all, you know, yellowish like gold does, then it wouldn't match all these nice silvery bits here. I'm not sure if this is rhodium too, but I guess gold is useful for nibs because it doesn't corrode or break down or anything when the ink goes through it. And there is a lot of weird stuff in ink sometimes. Now, things like this could be one reason why the pen is so expensive. First of all, Pilot is a fairly reputable brand, so they can charge a little bit more for some of their stuff if they want to and get away with it, right? They've got their reputation, they've got a name for themselves, but also gold, even though it's just 14 karat gold, which is about 58.3% pure, that's what the 585 means, 58.3, they just round up to the nearest factor of 5 for some reason. Gold is like $1,500 per ounce. And then rhodium, which the nib is coated with, I don't know about the trim, like I said, rhodium is like $6,000 an ounce at the moment. It all fluctuates. So maybe that's why it's so expensive. As you can see, the nib is fairly flexible. Not as flexible maybe as dip pens and stuff like that. But there is quite a bit of flex to it. And I'm being pretty careful now because in the past I have over-flexed pens and people have gotten a little upset at me for pushing too hard. It's times like these when I wish I knew how to do calligraphy or cursive or anything like that, but I don't. So I will make up some of my own calligraphy. Let's see if I can write my name in Peter's new handmade on-the-spot calligraphy. There's the E, T, E with a little bit of fanciness. And then the R. This is my middle name. I think I actually got some of the letters mixed around in all the excitement, but it's okay. What I'm saying is, I like this pen. It is somewhat flexible. I don't think it's because it's made out of gold and rhodium. That more has to do with the construction of the nib itself, its shape, how thick and thin it is, this way and that way. Because there are a lot of very flexible nibs made out of things like steel. So I will say maybe this year could be the year I learn how to do calligraphy. I just have to set my mind to it. This also could be the year you learn how to do calligraphy, or if there's anything else you want to learn how to do this year. 2020 is the time, and Skillshare is the place. Hey, go ahead and join. Start scrolling through. There's a link in the description you can use to get 2 free months of premium content for free. These are a combination of video lessons and a course project. Skillshare is for creative and curious people, lifelong learners. For example, here's a pretty cool class by Sean Dalton about night photography. He talks all about camera settings, preparation, editing. It's pretty sweet. I think there's even classes on productivity. All right. Before we start drawing, I do want to look at the construction of the pen a little more, in case any of you are curious about that. It feels good in my hand. I like the look of it. I do these days kind of stray away from some of the more traditional looking pens, like some of the torpedo and cigar shaped pens like this Ester book I have right here. I'm not super into this, but this one seems okay to me. I do like that it posts well and the cap screws on. Also, I can see my reflection in the top of this cap right here. You can see the camera. Check that out. It's like a little mirror. Is it working? Can you see me? Flexible nib pens are not my favorite for drawing with, but we're going to do it anyways, and we'll see how it goes. Also, different colored inks are not my favorite for drawing with, but we'll also do that anyways. All right, cool. All right, so for today, we're drawing inside of a Stillman and Byrne Epsilon series sketchbook, if that means anything to you. If you want it to mean something to you, you can Google that, Stillman and Byrne, B-I-R-N, Epsilon series. I mostly chose this sketchbook out of all my other sketchbooks and pieces of paper because after experimenting with it a little bit, I prefer it over some of the other paper I have because the ink doesn't feather very much and it doesn't bleed through the paper. It just seems like decent paper. The one way it doesn't seem like good paper is because I did experience a fair amount of smudging with this drawing, but that could be also partly due to the ink. All right, because one thing I realized is that maybe partly the pen, it's not the pen's fault it was smudging, but with the ink, I think this really is ink fully intended for writing, right? Doing nice handwriting, calligraphy, penmanship, right? Doing beautiful stuff like that, which a lot of people very successfully do. And if you're doing that, a lot of the time you don't rub your hand over on top of what you've done already. But I ended up doing that a lot, especially after I went back to do the second color on top. And as you'll see, I guess I can go ahead and spoil it for you. I didn't really experience a lot of the glistening with the glue-on color, I guess as it's called. The only time I ever really saw much of the glistening was when I was like, I had first filled up the pen and I wiped it off on a paper towel, and there was a bunch of the glitter on the paper towel then in the middle of the ink I had cleaned off of the pen. And I shook it up vehemently before I filled the pen so that all the glitter would be, shaken up and not all stuck to the bottom of the ink bottle. But maybe, is that the wrong thing to do? Maybe I should have shaken up the pen too. I don't know if I did anything wrong. I frequently do things wrong. It's fine. I learn slowly but surely. One thing I do want to do is provide a solid, just a whale of a shout out to all of the fountain pen people out there. There are a lot of people out there that know way more about me than fountain pens. People who really should have, that make me feel a little bit weird for having the platform that I do, right? I think it was just maybe 2.5 years ago that I got my first fountain pen. It was a Noodler Ahab, maybe March of 2017, right? I remember there's a video of me smelling that Noodler Ahab. Those pens smell very bad. And my friend Belinda sent that to me. Thank you, Belinda, for starting me on this journey. But what I want to say is, right, it's been 2.5 years for me. I'm far from an expert, but here I am in a position where a lot of people see what I have to say about pens. I have no idea what's going on, and there are lots of people on the internet with years and years and decades of experience with pens, and I just want to apologize, if I say anything wrong, but also I'm also thankful that you're out there on places, like there's those forums, Fountain Pen Network, Fountain Pen subreddit. I'm sure there's lots of other places. A lot of you have your own, YouTube channels and stuff like that. So if you want to find out more about fountain pens, and you're watching my channel right now, you have questions, feel free to ask in the comments. I'm sure there's knowledgeable people. Feel free to look around elsewhere on YouTube. I'm sure there's lots of other channels where people would love to have you watch their videos and find out more. Feel free to go ask around on forums and on Reddit. As far as I have seen, these fountain pen people are some of the nicest people. Very excited always to help spread the knowledge and give tips and tricks and share. I don't know. It's cool. It's a fun community, right? Anyways, so I just wanted to say, I feel weird being in this position, having the platform that I do without a lot of the knowledge, but I'm thankful for it. Yes. Cause I went on some of these forums to find out what the heck this meant, that the nib was coated in rhodium, and I spent a whole evening reading stuff, and I'm sure I didn't even figure it out, the whole way. So I don't know, I'm losing my train of thought now, but yes, thank you everyone. Thank you for watching. The drawing turned out pretty good. I like how it turned out. I have done this before where I drew some weird guy with a weird kind of dissolving face and a jacket leaning on a counter with kind of a frame behind and around him. I will say this pen seemed to work best on the downstroke. Every other stroke besides the downstroke sometimes seemed a little bit annoying in that the tip of the pen almost seemed too sharp. It seemed to dig into the paper a little bit. Sometimes the lines were almost too fine for my liking. And this is another way in which I thought maybe this pen was not, intended for drawing, which I think a lot of fountain pens aren't really. They were made with writing in mind, which is totally fine. But as you can see, the drawing turned out fine regardless. It wasn't anything significant enough to stop me. And that has happened before. I know of at least a couple videos where I've unboxed pens and they've just been so lousy I didn't even feel like making a video of me drawing with them. So I don't know, I like the pen. Like I said, I don't know if I said this, but it's difficult for me to know if I would ever have bought this with my own money, but I'm sure there are people, certain collectors and enthusiasts that would find them in a position to want this pen. It's so yeah, I don't know. Anyways, let me know if you have any questions. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. Maybe someone else can answer them. I'll try if I can. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take it easy. Okay. Bye. All right. Love you.